So, the laws of science rectify the one, even if the units inside of the one
slow down. So
are
this
infinite.
So you're
you
saying
gotta
this
let me
isn't
talk.
I
You
know.
gotta let me go.
But you were talking about something before you gave permission,
so
saying that basically that you know that this isn't the
this
first time.
This can't be the first time because when we get to first causes, what we have is turtles all the way down. It's infinite recursion. It's why, because.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Recursion means that there is no logical way to reconcile what we're looking at. That means we're somewhere in the middle of a chain of repetitions. It makes sense that recursion is true. It's okay. We're inside of a system. We're trying to look at one unit inside of a system. If it was the first time that all of this had ever happened, science would logically reconcile to the moment of the Big Bang and end without recursion. Because the laws would allow it to be so in the point of everything where it was the first time. But it's not the first time. Why? Because what happened before the first time? Before the beginning? Oh, there was something else. Oh, really? Well, what before that? Probably something else. Turtles all the way down. Okay, great. So this isn't the first time then? Probably not. Why? Because we can reconcile that because of the recursion. We can say, okay, this isn't the first time. That's why the laws of science can't reconcile it. What did the universe exist in? Nothing. That can't be true. Why? Because if at ever in any point there is something, nothing's an impossibility. A. B. Something can't reside inside of nothing because nothing is not a thing. You can't reside inside of nothing because then it becomes a space from which you can reside in and is now a thing. It is something. So that doesn't make sense. We could logically conclude and reconcile these issues if this was the alpha point, the alpha moment of all these things. This isn't the first time this has happened. Now, it's not the last time it's happened either, because we still have to talk about death in terms of, but the rebirth that comes after. The phoenix that rises from the ashes, don't we? And how does that reconcile? Turtles all the way down again? We're doing that again? Okay, so it can't be the last fucking time this happens. It's gonna happen again. There are going to be some differences. But it's not as big as, well, I was dog last time. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know exactly how exponentially different everything changes as it goes. Because it's all it does. It just vibrates through it, passes through itself, and vibrates back, passes through itself. Yes. It expands and contracts, expands and contracts, expands and contracts. And all around the middle. And how do I know this? The impossibility of the reconciliation of recursion at the alpha and omega points. Because if this was the last time, science would be able to reconcile. You know, we can reconcile the things in the middle. Science reconciles these issues. We can discuss how lines act. We can guess the birth, life cycle, and death, and the things that happen afterwards, given the nature of stars and heat and density and gravity. We can do those things. So then why can't we do the same thing with the alpha and omega points? Because we're still going to have the problem with what came first and what happens next.
Chicken or the egg.
But now here's the problem with that sort of thought. It is predicated on the fact that I have this crazy tool that needs to have a beginning and an end. And the beginning, if I want to look before the beginning, I want to know what happened before the beginning. If I want to know the end, I want to know what happens after the end. Okay? Well, wait a second.
Wow.
What happened in the world before Cinderella and the stepdaughters and the prince? There's a world before that, right? Well, yeah. Okay, well, what happened in that world? That was a cool story. What else was in the world? I gotta know. Right? Well, what about the end? Let's fill in the blanks. What happened happily ever after? Well, that was it? That's the only important thing that ever happened to him? There are not more stories of Prince Charming and Cinderella? I don't believe that. How about, we see a light in the sky. We don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You gotta fill in the blank. You should just stop wondering what it is. It's just something you don't know. Not, what if that was aliens? Because I gotta have an answer, right? So when we look at these first causes, we want to fill the blanks in. So we want to go, okay, well, what happened beforehand? I'm naturally curious. I got to fill that in. And here's the problem. It can't, because everything we do is separate and define and create within a narrative that fits my biases so that I can function in a relatively safe, static sort of way. That's what your brain does. Keeps you alive within the system that you're in by separating, causing terms and definitions, recognizing patterns, and staying fucking alive.
Ego?
Staying alive. Staying alive. Now, the problem with that is we're going to see recursion in the beginning and in the end. You know why? Because we don't know anything other than multiplicity. You know why Buddhism is such a fucking lie? You know why I don't believe any fucking person that thinks there's a Buddhist? I believe that everything is one. You believe that everything is one, huh? Then how'd you start that sentence with the word I? The first thing you did when you told me your belief, which you don't believe, is separate yourself from the word everything. So how do you separate yourself and then lie to me and tell me that everything is one? Because that light isn't one thing. There's a million little parts if I want to look at it. It's as many little parts as I can feasibly fucking break it into. How long would it take me to get to the end of the block from here if I keep cutting my steps in half? I'd never reach it. But now you stand over there. You believe that? Right? I never get to the end of the block if I just keep taking half steps, right? Zeno's paradox? Zeno's paradox.
But it's also like...
Hold on, but here's the thing. If you believe that, fine. You stand over there. I'm coming. I'm going to keep cutting my steps in half, and when I get close enough, I'm going to punch you. According to Zeno's paradox, shouldn't be a problem. I'm never going to get there. And you're like, yeah, but I don't think that's how it works. Well, you fucking tell me how it works. I'm going to cut my steps in half, but I'm never going to be able to hit you. Come on. It's all thought experiment. We can't teach you
what I'm saying, because the belief
system.
The
way our brain works is that if it can be divided, it will be divided. Over and over and over and over
as
and
it has
over.
For thousands
so
of
I
years.
cannot believe that this has happened an infinite amount of times. I can't believe we're in the middle of these repeating patterns and that this isn't the alpha point or the omega point because of the laws of science. Because my brain is betraying me. Because it's showing me things not really in the way that they exist, but in the way that it can make sense of the world around it to survive. It's not unreal, but it isn't an accurate description of the universe that we live in for the purpose of ascertaining whether or not we're going to do this again. Whether it's happened before, what comes after, blah, 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 blah. Furthermore, what the fuck does it matter? What if I was a can of Pepsi in motherfucking Buenos Aires in 1976? And I got shattered and melted down, and a part of my spirit traveled through the ether, and I was born in 1981 in New York City. Fucking so what? What does it do for me to know that I was a dog in Patagonia in the 1500s? Furthermore, if you are not the same person, let's say I was a lounge singer in Peru in the 1800s. I sang and I danced and I fed the men wine. And what was my personality like? I had a different brain, I had a different personality, right? I had a different vessel, different time, different customs, everything was different. The me that is now is not that person. There's something similar, but that doesn't make sense. This theory breaks down, and very simply because if you think about it, if you have a can of Coke, okay? I take that can of Coke, I pour it out. I put more Coke into a Pepsi can. They say, well, it's Coke, but it's different Coke, and it's in a different can. It's not the same thing, you're just changing things out. Now, not only that, but if I don't have a recollection of any control over, or even anything in common with this thing I was supposedly before, then by definition it wasn't me. I can resonate with the idea of having that experience, but it wasn't me.
This makes me think of Jim Carrey, bro. How he's like, there is no me, and like all the things that he's been.
It's because we create noise when we build too many things up to to try and explain very simple things. Occam's razor is fantastic because it tells you, listen, the simplest answer with the least amount of steps is probably the right answer, right? Even if it was true, who gives a shit, right? Truth, the will to power, the will to truth. Before the will to power, Nietzsche did the will to truth. He discusses the will to truth, and what he does is he says, the fuck is the point of truth? And we ask a question. God comes down from the sky, and we're sitting here talking, and we're like really trying to get at and trying to figure out all the problems of the universe, where we come from, and what's past the regression. It makes most sense to fix whatever fucking addiction to goddamn sugar pops I have in the morning, right? Because that's what my problem is. Too much sugar is fucking with my emotions, and it's because I was fucking a goddamn abused grape stomper in France, and just before the storming of the Bastille, and I was killed unjustly in a pool of syrup, and that's why I'm fucking addicted to sugar.
It sounds like you're already in the.
And that's all my problems. And that's all my problems, right? And it just says it sounds like my brain is just telling stories. It's a very creative human being, and that's what we like to do. We tell stories because we got to fill these blanks in, right? You got to fill them up somehow. So we might as well bullshit our way through it, right? So
you're saying everything is bullshit?
Oh yeah, all of it. So
every
here I am. I'm this kid. Or maybe I'm just me and that's it. And maybe my problems emotionally or my addiction to sugar comes from something else. Like, I don't know, maybe being fed too much sugar, maybe not having any access to sugar and then going crazy with it.
Yes.
And become addicted to sugar.
Yep.
That makes a lot more sense than the fucking storming of the Bastille, dead in the syrup kid from the fucking 1500s, doesn't it?
I like that
it's
story,
It's a much
though.
simpler. It's a great. Oh my god,
That's a great
that poor
story.
kid. It's tragic. You should read it.
He was mating with an abused.
You should read it. He was beaten.
Woman.
They beat him up. They made him stomp the
talking
grapes. His
about?
poor feet. His poor feet
What
have to stomp those
story is
grapes.
this?
The kid that died in the storming of the Bastille. That was my past life. That's who I was.
Okay.
That's why I'm addicted to sugar. Don't you remember? Don't you listen? Come on, try to keep up here. Come on, see? It's more simple to say that we have more direct behavioral links and causes, more rational discussions for why things happen. And it doesn't make it bad. And yes, we can be overly rational, and sometimes indulging in some spiritual and some story time and allowing for some movie. I get a little airy fairy now and then.
That's why I totally did ask if you were an air sign, dude, because I was just like, what the fuck?
I do get a little airy fairy
so
sometimes.
Dry and
See, I'm a chameleon though, and that's the problem, is that I'm very...
I know,
I'm
you fucking Taurus.
I am double Earth, but
What's the other Earth?
Fucking chameleon, I don't know. There's no double Earth.
You gotta read the astrology a different way though. You might be only thinking about tropical. The astrology can be read tropical, Vedic,
but see, here's the problem. Even that I don't like.
I know. But also, since you're like this, it also leaves out this.
Bangs, please tell me what planet's responsible for my mood tonight.
Someone with bangs?
Someone with bangs, yeah. Can someone with bangs tell me what fucking planet's responsible for my mood today?
That's funny. Someone with bangs.
Yeah, well, not you.
I know, that's hilarious.
Someone with amazing breasts.
I feel you.
Sorry.
I hear you.
That top is very flattering.
Right on.
To you, lady bits.
Thank you.
Like
it makes me feel like I'm wearing a second skin, like I don't have to wear.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh, it's so great.
I gotta say thank you.
Thank you.
You look fantastic.
Thank you.
You always look fantastic.
Thank you.
I think you're very, very
Thank you.
attractive.
Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you. I'm like, I usually don't say thank you, or I have a hard time like taking compliments sometimes, to be honest. I really just like your energy, and just like, again, like I've seen your face in my head a couple times, and like I'll be honest, I don't know what your first name is. And
What was yours again?
I'm Trina.
Trina, that's right. I'm Biles.
Vilas. Dude, I just remember, I remember connecting to your energy, and exactly, I started meeting some people in town and knowing some more people's stories and going deeper down the rabbit hole, and they just kept showing me your face, and I was like, where is he? I was like, I've been looking for, I've been listening,
yeah.
and then it was so crazy, when you first walked in, I didn't recognize you. Your aura was just completely different, or whatever you want to call it, like exactly, you're just completely different person.
I'm in a weird spot right now, yeah, I'm definitely in a weird spot right now.
And then it was weird, like at first, like I immediately knew that I knew you, and someone that I wanted to see, let's cut it.